Hey everyone, it's the Chaplain coming to you with a little bit more of BBR Explained. On today's episode, we are going to go over the Axis victory conditions. So, one of the main reasons that I absolutely love the Bloodbath rule set is the fact that in this game, in Global 1940 out of box, for example, you have to control three Axis. I'm blanking. You have to control three Axis capitals. That's Berlin, Rome, and Tokyo in order to win the game as the Allies. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. All right, that's never going to happen. G.I. Joe has a phenomenal video on why go for BBR, and in his video, he very comically illustrates this exact point. So I'm going to put a link to that video in the description. The reason that BBR is so wonderful is because there is a set of realistic goals to win the war in a set period of time. You can go to round 16, 17, 18, you can go to round 54, 55, 56 in global out of box. It's ridiculous. This game is 8 rounds, and there are victory conditions that the Axis have to meet. If they don't meet them, the Allies win. Boom, game over. Now, there is a rule about capitals. If you do take a capital, for example, if Tokyo falls, Japan has to take it back within a turn, or they lose, the Axis lose. The same for Berlin, and the same for DC and London, I believe. If that capital is taken, then you have a turn to get it back. If you can't, you lose. So if you turn to page 6 on your BB3 rule book, there are the exact winning conditions, and over here are the objectives. So it also comes with this awesome card. I love this card, but one thing I don't like about it is that there are little check mark boxes. Who's going to mark on their card? It's just something I thought of. They might not be check mark boxes to you, but to me they are. If they're not, that's perfectly fine. I'm just being silly. I love everything about this card. So the way that it works is there are victory points. There are something like 30 points available. Let me just count really quick. You've got all these victory cities. It's 5, 10, 15, 20 victory cities. 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 32. There are 32 conditions. I'm sorry, 32 objectives. And to win the game as the Axis, you have to have 12 of these at the end of 8 turns. That's it. 12. That might seem easy, but it's not. So, really quickly, obviously, I mentioned these cities, the victory cities, okay? We know that Warsaw, Shanghai, San Francisco, etc., focus in. There you go. Manila, Sydney, all of these points are available. I did just realize that Imperial and Reich are on here, and they're also down here. So there's only 30. There are 30 available points. Okay. At the start of the game, the Axis have Berlin, right? They have Warsaw, okay. They have Rome, great. They have Tokyo, and they have Shanghai. That's 5. In 8 rounds, they have to collect and hold on to at least 7 more points to win. Some of the other points that are available, for example, are really hard to get. Some of them are really easy to get. So what I'm going to do in this video, the purpose of this video, is to skip over these cities because you know them, okay? And we're just going to discuss this portion of the card and the rules. So the first one on here is World Oil 1, okay? The Axis control 4 of 10 oil territories. Well, what are the oil territories? Where are they? There's one in Romania. Let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit. Okay. Oh, man, I need a pointer stick. Dang it. That's what I need. All right. Before my next video, I'm going to find a pointer stick. I'm just going to use a pen. So in Romania, oil. There's also oil available in the Middle East. Let me turn this just slightly. Okay, wobble. You have the Caucasus. You have Iraq. I'm sorry, this one's Iran. You have Iraq and Saudi Arabia. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 oil on this side of the board. The other 5 are over here. Set it down gently. Awesome. Sumatra, Java, Borneo, Celebes or Sulawesi as the natives call it, and then Dutch New Guinea. There are 10 oil territories, and so to get this first point World Oil 1, you need 4 of them. If you want the second point, you can get 3 more. So if you have 7 out of these 10 oil territories, there you go. The next point on here is called Atlantic Wall. The Axis need 4 ground units in every territory listed. Norway, Denmark, Normandy, and Holland. And that's over here. Norway's all the way at the top. I'm watching my feet, making sure I'm not kicking my stand. Norway, Denmark, Holland, and Normandy to form the Atlantic Wall. That's a point. That one's fairly easy to get. I should mention, I'm trying to mention, I apologize. World Oil 1 is pretty easy to get. I don't think I've seen World Oil 2 taken. Although I bet it has. It makes sense that it has. But I've seen this one taken. I've not seen this one taken. Atlantic Wall. This one's pretty easy to get. Unless you haven't taken care of the British Air Force / Navy, then they'll just harass you all day and they'll work on those ground units. The next point available is called Mediterranean. No Allied territories touching C-Zone 95 and 96. And so, in this card, he simplified it as much as he could. But what that means is, and I'm just going to use the rule book here, the Allies do not control Malta, Cyprus, Crete, Sardinia, or Sicily. So C-Zone 95 is this C-Zone here. So this and this have to be Axis. And then the other one is C-Zone 99 right here. Cyprus, Crete, and Greece. So if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are Axis controlled, then you get that point. I've seen that one happen pretty frequently, honestly. It's pretty easy to get. If you can kick the Allies out of the Med, it's easy to move around and get those. The next point that we're going to talk about is the resources point. So on the map, there are 5 resources in 5 territories. And let me just show you what they are. If you control 3 of these, then you control that point. So the first resource available is in Caucasus. This territory is pretty important, okay? It's got oil, it's got resource, it's worth 2. So that's a good one. The other resource is in Ukraine. There's another one up in Urals. And I'm going to try to point with my pen at a distance instead of leaning over my table. Here we go. Right there, Urals. I'm sorry it's at the top of your screen, but there's a little resource marker that I have with those tanks. So there are 3 of them. The other 2 are on this side, and they're in Manchuria and Siberia. That one's fairly easy to get. You start the game off with the Manchuria point. Ukraine is pretty easy to get. And then either Siberia or Caucasus, however you want to pronounce it, that one's pretty easy to get. The next one on our list, South Asia. So this says Burma, Shan State, Siam, Malaya, and FIC, French Indochina. And that one is pretty easy, as the Axis, the Japanese at least, start off with a huge force in the Global 40 setup and in the BBR 40 setup. So it just means you have to control Burma, Shan State, Siam, French Indochina, and Malaya. So these 5 territories right here, Southeast Asia point. I've seen it happen. It's a pretty easy point. It's seriously, it's not hard to get unless your British opponent is very Calcutta focused and very heavy into India, trying to keep the Japanese away. The next point that's available is the China point. And that simply means that every single territory that belongs to the Chinese now belongs to the Axis. There's no Chinese units in any of these territories with the Chinese marker on them. All right, so that's the China point. I've seen that one happen, honestly, in about half the games that I've watched or seen played. Excuse me. It's a fairly easy, it's a fairly easy point to get, in that China usually doesn't put up much of a defense, but that really means that your resources are focused on China. The next point we're going to discuss is the African Horn, and here are the territories you need for that: Sudan, Kenya, Ethiopia, British and Italian Somaliland. So let's move back over to Africa. Probably have to zoom out. Nope, I don't have to zoom out. Bear with me as I try to bend this a little. Hiya! Haki-taki-ya! Okay. Most of you watching this are probably a little bit too old to remember the animated Anastasia movie. You didn't watch it as a kid. I did. If you're not that old and you do remember watching it as a kid, great. But I remember the scene where Bartok is talking to Rasputin, and he says, "I'll give her a ha and a hi-ya and a ooh-wah and I kick her, sir." That's what I think of when I think of this point. And I know it's weird and it makes no sense, but if you'll bear with me for a second. If you have British and Italian Somaliland, along with Sudan, Kenya, and Ethiopia, these 5, that's huge. But it's not so huge when you think about the little Bartok bat giving it a kick. Okay, if the UK focuses heavily on UK itself and in India, you're going to be able to run amok in Africa. I've seen the Italians make it almost all the way down to South Africa in a game. It's crazy. So think of this little bat just giving a nice little kick. I'm going to kick her, sir. That was my best Bartok impression. Anyway, that is the African Horn Point. There's also the New Rome Point. All of North Africa, plus Greece, Crete, and all originally controlled territories which border the Mediterranean Sea. So that literally means exactly what it says. In order to have New Rome, you need all these territories. Boom, 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 boom. All right, that's all of North Africa. You also need Greece and Crete. And all of these Italian territories, well, Albania, southern, northern, Sardinia, and Sicily, all of the ones that start off Italian, that touch the Med. That one's pretty easy. If you can do the New Rome Point and or the Mediterranean Point, usually one goes with the other. If you have one, you have the other. So that's a pretty good point. I'm going to skip this point, Pacific Islands, and I'm gonna go down to the Reich Point simply because that is where the camera is focused-ish. So the Reich Point simply states that Germany and Italy have 70 on the income tracker. This does not include national objectives. This does not include any bonuses. This does not include anything other than the income tracker. They have to have a combined total of 70 IPCs on the tracker to gain the Reich Point. And it used to be, you had to control this territory or that territory, and now it doesn't. It just means you have to hit the IPC value. You can make your Reich look exactly like whatever you want. If you want it to be Africa, it can be Africa. If you want it to be Russia, it can be Russia. If you want it to be London and North Africa, and if you want to take Sweden and Spain, if you want to take Turkey, whatever you need to do to move your IPC tracker up to get to 70 combined between Germany and Italy, you can make it look like whatever you want. And so that's really, really powerful. If the Germans come up, oh man, I love this song. It's called The Mighty Rio Grande by a band called This Will Destroy You. I'll tell you a quick story about that later. But anyway, if the Germans decide that they want to kind of come down and push through and take all of this stuff, and the Italians help them, and so their Reich looks like this, then that is what it is. If they want to focus over here, then they can focus over here. If they want to focus down there, they can focus down there. Nobody cares. You just have to have 70 IPCs on the tracker. All right, and then last but not least, the Pacific Point. Let me see where the best position for this is. Right there? Possibly? All right, perfect. Control 4 U.S. or U.K. Pacific Islands. Super easy. What is a U.S. or U.K. Pacific Island? Well, that could be Fiji, which is off your map here. It can be the Line Islands, which is right there. Johnston, Gilbert. I think New Britain belonged to Anzac in this game. It does. Borneo counts. That's the Philippines. Borneo. What am I looking at here? Gosh darn it. This one's Borneo. I'm not actually touching the territory. I'm just kind of angling my pen in the area. So Borneo over here counts. This one counts the Philippines. You've also got Guam and Midway, which is up here, and Wake. All of these islands count. So if it's US or UK at the start of the game, and you have 4 of them, you have the Pacific Island Point. So that's it. Those are the victory conditions as far as it goes with BBR. And I hope this video was informative. If you are liking these videos, awesome. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a subscribe. I do want to really quickly give a quick shout out to my friend across the pond, Hell on Wheels. He has been very helpful in terms of this content. He's asked me to, he's given me input at least. He's asked for me to make XYZ videos, and here I am making those videos. And so Definitely a huge shout out to him. Thank you for your help, brother. I also want to give a shout out to G.I. Joe. I mentioned earlier, and I will post a link to his Why Choose BBR video. But Joe has done a great job making videos, these exact same videos, with his own flair. Definitely the OG of that. And so thank you to G.I. Joe for making this game more clear to us. That's it. I'll tell you the story about this song a different time. I'm the chaplain. I'll be praying for you.